Are you a telescope or a microscope? Too often, we regard what the enemy is doing to attack us too highly. What if we instead walk around in a much higher level of victory? If we choose to walk in the victory of what God is doing in our lives in a higher regards than what the enemy is trying to do? Let's look at this story about Paul in the book of Acts. Acts 28, verses 3 and 5. Paul gathered a pile of brushwood, and, as he put them on the fire, a viper, driven out by the heat, fastened itself on his hand. But Paul shook the snake off into the fire and suffered no ill effects. In the time leading up to this story, Paul had been beaten, thrown in jail unfairly for 2 years. He had been awaiting an appeal with Cesar in Rome. When he was sent by boat to Cesar, a great storm came, tearing the boat apart and leaving those aboard shipwrecked. This is where this verse starts, after surviving the ship disaster. Paul was setting up a fire when a viper attached itself to his hand. Notice what he does. He shook the snake off. Paul walked in a type of confidence with low regard to what the devil was doing because he held what God was doing in and through his life with higher value. He knew he could not die from this snake's venomous bite and still fulfill his purpose. He knew God's word, and he knew God's plan for his life. So he shook the beast off into the fire. He brushed off the enemy's attack and kept moving down the path God gave him. Many things will happen in our lives that are in opposition to what the Lord has planned for us. We can choose to make the attacks against God's plan for us our focus, or we can magnify God and his plan and purpose for our lives. So will you be a telescope or a microscope? A telescope looks at already large objects and brings them into focus, things that are far away and even hard to see. They take the reality of the object and allow it to be seen in a clearer image. A microscope takes something so small it can't be seen with the naked eye, enlarges it to the point of distortion to allow us to see it. So it is not the reality of the object being viewed, but a way to see things otherwise invisible. So when we allow ourselves to take an attack from the enemy and blow it up, allowing it to overshadow what God is doing in our life, we are the microscope. The attacks, no matter how big, are in reality very small compared to the size of our God. When we magnify the Lord and all he is doing in our lives and keep him and his plans our focus, we are a telescope. Philippians 4:8 says, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." We need to use something to shrink down, so to speak, the size of God's ways to wrap our tiny little brains around it. So I ask you again, will you be a telescope or a microscope? Thanks for listening to Jesus Took Naps. If someone needs to hear this, click the share button. Please subscribe and feel free to leave a donation of encouragement.